Hey, Jay, we're going live. Who do you want to do a shout out to?
Today, I'd like to give a shout out to my son Sebastian. It's his birthday and he's turning 12. So happy birthday,
Oh,
Sebby.
happy
Daddy loves
birthday,
you.
Sebastian. Here we go. Hey guys, we're talking with Jay Africa today. Jay is a role playing game designer and dungeon master. He builds community spirit as he leads D&D Adventures for kids and teens with Writopia Lab and Hero Workshop. He's written adventures for the D&D Adventurers League, and his most recent work can be seen in the newly released Carbon Gray RPG role playing games. Um, you can watch his game on watch him gaming on gaming streams such as Saving Throw Show, Geek and Sundry's Game the Game, and Happy Jack's RPG podcast. Welcome to the show, Jay. So excited to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.
I love the idea that you have taken what some people just see as a game, and you are now working with kids to help them actually build self-esteem, do after school stuff, and those sorts of things. Let's talk about what you do first of all. Um, first, let's just start with the absolute basics for people that don't know. Quickly, what is Dungeons and Dragons?
Okay, Dungeons and Dragons is what's called a role playing game. A role playing game is a game in which you play a character and you basically live that character through the scenarios in the game.
Okay.
Think of it like a play, except instead of being on stage, you're taking a role at the table and you're working on creating the story with other players.
Okay, so we come up with this. You, I think, because you're the dungeon master or game master, come up with a scenario,
hmm
and then people who are sitting around this room and table with you interact with the scenarios that you create. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so I'll start off. For example, I'll start off by saying, we'll do a quick thing right now. Like, okay, Michael, you're walking through a forest. All right, you're walking through a forest. It is beginning to get dark. The sun is just dipping under the horizon, so there's still a little bit of light. And all of a sudden, you hear a rustling sound in the bushes to your left. What do you do?
Um, I pull out my sword and I yell out, "Who's over there?"
Ooh, okay. When you yell out who's over there, a small creature with green skin and pointy ears, long pointy ears, kind of peeks up over the bushes and looks at you with these little beady eyes and a mouthful of sharp teeth. And it starts to crawl towards you. How would you like to react?
I want to pull my sword out a little bit more and say, "Stop right there, or I'm going to strike."
Hmm. Okay. The creature sees that and stops. And so that's the kind of thing that's like
Okay.
sort of this general flow of the storytelling that we do. And as you notice, as long as you kind of like lean into it, it's really easy to get into it. It's really easy to get into the story and just kind of go with what is reasonable or what sounds fantastic to you.
Gotcha.
hmm
What about the
hmm
little green guy? Is he friendly or not?
well, we may have to have a whole session to find out.
We will have to do that. So, you work with a couple of organizations. I think I
hmm
mentioned Hero Workshop and Writopia. Tell us about each of those. What
Sure.
is the purpose of those, and how are they different? What's up with them?
Yeah, sure, sure. Let me start with Writopia Lab. So, Writopia Lab is a nonprofit organization dedicated to spreading literacy and joy to kids and teens. It started in New York City, but now it has several branches. It's in New York, it's in the Bay Area, it's here in Los Angeles, and in Washington D.C. Plus, we have online workshops all the time throughout the various days that serve other locations and other time zones outside of that. Um, Writopia Labs started out as a creative writing focused organization and then started expanding to other forms of writing. So, like journalism, essay writing. And then eventually they started their role playing game division as well. Um, the role playing game division is fairly new. And so and I've just recently joined it. I think the team is actually only a couple of years like the division is only a couple of years old.
Okay.
And so I joined that recently this year, and I've been running games online for them, as well as here at the Los Angeles lab for the kids and teens. Um, let's see. Hero Workshop is an in-person organization. They're also nonprofit
Okay.
out here in Culver City, Culver City, California, here in Los Angeles. And it's basically it's more focused on it's an after school care organization, and so kids can come when kids can come to Hero Workshop after school and play games while their folks are at work, and then get picked up later on. We the local kids in Culver City, but we do have a few online games that also serve kids in other areas.
Okay.
But the focus of both of what I do in both organizations is the same: run RPGs for kids, even though the intent for each organization is different.
Okay. So you're is this, would you look at it kind of as an after school thing, or is it a all the time workshop that you run for the kids for the different organizations?
When the school year starts, it's generally after school. But during the summer and winter breaks and such, we actually have like full-time programming.
Okay, I'm
Mhm.
fascinated by this whole concept of
Sure.
playing D&D, RPG, role-playing games for kids. And how do you get the kids involved in this? Do you go around the schools and you put up flyers? Do other kids talk about it? How do you get kids into it? And then I've got to go a ton of questions from there.
Yeah, no worries. Really, a lot of it, frankly, is word of mouth. With Hero Workshop, the owner and founder Scott, he started running D&D as part of an after-school program at one of the local schools, and eventually the program got so big that he was able to transition it to where Hero Workshop is now. And really, again, word of mouth, a kid will come in, play, have a really great time, and they'll start telling their friends at school, or they'll start telling their family, their cousins from the various areas, and then they'll want to come in and start playing as well. As far as Writopia goes, Writopia has been around a while, actually. It's been around for, I think it's been around since 2012, and
Well,
so they've got a little more of a base as far as kids that participate go. And so there's certainly a lot of word of mouth there too, where kids kind of join the online workshops and enjoy it and bring other kids in. But at the same time, kids that have participated in their previous creative writing workshops are also in that mailing list, and so we get other kids that way too.
okay, so this is important to me, and I think a lot of people. And when you talk about kids in schools, one of the things that you hear about all the time is kids being bullied. And the, does the workshop help with those sorts of things like self-esteem? Do you bring bullies in who have been bullies before, and now they're like, "Oh, I'm not a bully anymore. I like these kids." Um, talked about that just a little bit.
That's a really good question. I personally have not encountered uh kids that have been known to bully in the past. Um, really, the kids that do these workshops, they tend to be very like-minded.
Mhm.
Um, what I will say is that we've had kids that were unsure as to whether this would kind of be their thing. They hear, role-playing games, D&D. That sounds kind of weird, or there was a long time association uh of role playing games to being a nerd or being a geek, right?
Okay.
But that's kind of like a little more accepted nowadays, and so kids are like, I don't know, that seems like kind of a nerdy thing to do. But then when they come in and do it, they're really kind of surprised by the experience that they have. um in terms of building self-esteem, I think that's certainly part of what we do. And I had kind of an encounter with that at one of the games that I ran recently that I can get into a little later if you'd like.
Yeah. So, what is it that you want to get out of the program, out of the kids
Um,
they go? What is it that has happened to them?
You know what? I'm sorry, Michael. I kind of lost you for a little bit. Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I was saying, you've got, the two labs, the two workshops, and you bring kids in. What is it that you want to get out of the program and out of the kids when they're done, if there is a
Uh,
done?
yeah, sure, sure. The again, the focuses for each of the organizations are slightly different. For Writopia Lab, it is to encourage storytelling. And so, we want to teach the kids how to tell their own story in a collaborative fashion, in the hopes that that'll inspire them to, bring that to their creative writing and to the rest of their, to the rest of their lives, really.
Mhm.
And so a lot of it involves validating the kids' choices and not steering away from difficult subjects.
Oh,
If a kid wants to talk about something difficult that may be affecting their lives, or is just a topic that they've been thinking about, then we are encouraged to deal with that. Um, and I've got a couple. I've got a couple of stories about that too, from a couple of games that I ran for Mytopia that kind of reinforce that.
actually, tell us. So I'm interested in
Oh,
that.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I don't want to name any names here, but I had a trans player at
Yes.
one of my games. And the scenario that I was running, we run specific scenarios. I don't just necessarily make things up. We have like adventures, very specific adventures that are written, that are pre-written, that we run. And this one particular adventure involved a cat that was being called the wrong name by somebody that had adopted it, right?
Yes.
uh the one of the characters spoke to this cat like with telepathy and learned what the cat's real name was. I asked him, okay, well, what is this cat's name? And that character gave them the name, and of course I want to validate the fact that that name is there, that is the name that the player had given the cat, right? But the character, the specific non-player character in the adventure that I was running, called the cat by a different name. And
Uh-huh.
I kind of just put it off as a joke, and it actually really triggered my trans player. And I said, you know what, I know that I'd meant that as a joke, but dead naming is a very real thing, and it's a very serious thing, and it's something that really affects people, and I apologize that I was really flippant about it. And so we had a conversation about that, and that actually ended up being really useful to all of our group. I thought that was a very teachable moment for all of our
And I
group.
just tell you that actually makes me just tear up a little bit. That is so important that people are recognized for who they are
Yes.
rather than what we want people to think. And that is a beautiful teaching moment.
Yeah.
How did the kids react to that while you were having that conversation?
They were very appreciative. They were very appreciative of it. And it was certainly a teaching moment for me too, where I kind of just had to like really dial back what I was doing and say, hey, again, people think it's a game, but it's really so much more than that. Like, people do get invested, and these issues do come up, and they should be addressed, and shouldn't just be brushed off or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then there was another situation in another game that I was running, in which kids were playing. Basically, it's a sort of Harry Potter situation. Kids are playing kids in a magic school, and the magic school kind of came under some danger. And the session, the next session I played was kind of hot off the heels of another school shooting. And so before I started that session, I said, okay, listen, we're, you know, in our last session, trouble was going to happen at the school. And I know that we've just kind of had this incident in the news, and I want to make sure everybody's okay, that you're all feeling okay, that, if you have any concerns or fears that you want to talk about, you can talk about it here. And if you don't want to continue with this storyline, we can change things up.
Uh-huh.
And all of the kids were like really appreciative about that too. One of the kids was like, you're not just our game leader. It seems like you're kind of a guidance counselor. And I said, yeah, that's really what we focus on here at Writopia Lab too. We want to be able to kind of help you through these things. We don't want to brush that off for you again.
That's absolutely beautiful. That
Yeah.
really is. And then, So when we keep using the word kids, how old are these kids? What is the age range?
Most of the individuals I've played with are from between 8 to 13.
Okay.
But I have run workshops for, for teens that are like, 13 to 15, 13 to 16. Um, uh, One of my hero workshop tables is actually a group of older kids. They're, teenagers again. I think they're range 14, 15 years old.
How long do the kids stick with the program once they come in? How many months, years?
Oof. Let's see. My Writopia workshops have been pretty short. They've been, like a week long. I'm running a couple of semester long workshops now where the kids and I meet once a week. But the hero workshop kids, like one of the tables I'm running, they've been around for over a year.
Wow.
And so,
Okay.
yeah, they've been playing through this adventure that Scott was running, and then I recently took over the table, and they all know each other. They're all friends at school. They've been playing these same characters for that long, and we're continuing towards the end of the adventure.
Wow. So once the adventure is done, do they keep the same characters and want to start another adventure, or what happens?
They can. Let's see. I honestly don't know how many adventures any of the other hero workshop folks have seen to like completion. But if these kids want to continue playing their character, yeah, we'll certainly find adventures of a higher level and keep on playing until we kind of hit the max.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So you are in Culver City, around the Los Angeles area.
Hmm.
There are people who will listen to this that are in Florida or Maryland or who knows where they may be, and they go like, "That is a fantastic idea. How do I get something going like this in my community? What would you suggest? How does that happen?"
Ooh. Let's see. If they want to start their own programs,
Mhm.
what I would recommend is approaching schools, because schools are always looking for ways to kind of augment their kids' education, kids' after school programs. Um, and so talk to the school, see what their programming is like. If there's like space for running a game for kids, like once a week or one afternoon a week after school, I'd highly recommend that. Also, like local libraries are a great place to do these kind of things for kids after school. I know that my library here in my local library here in Los Angeles, they run after school D&D games.
Can people
Mhm.
call you guys and learn from you? And do
You
you
know,
franchise the model or?
Not that I know of at this point. I'm sure I'm sure Writopia Lab and Hero Workshop would love to be able to franchise and to be able to kind of branch out at that. But right now, like Writopia is pretty established again. Hero Workshop's still a fairly small organization.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, you can certainly reach out to folks at Writopia and Hero Workshop to inquire. And in fact, the other option is doing, if somebody out there who's listening and watching wants to enroll their kids, you can certainly hop onto Writopia Lab's website. It's writopialab.org. uh,
Yeah,
all of our programming is listed there. You can hop on an online class, you can enroll your kids in an online class, um, and they can play D&D online there. um, Hero Workshop, we are also looking to expand to more online games, and so that is something that is going to be added as an option for other time zones, other communities, other areas.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
How many other of the Dungeon Master are there besides yourself?
Let's see. At Hero Workshop, there's a total of 7 of us.
Okay.
And at Writopia Lab, I think Writopia Lab has about 10, kind of rotating in and out of various DM games, various game master games.
I think that this idea, the community that is built because of D&D, and just the couple of lessons that you even just went over with me that people have learned, real world things, is fantastic. And if nothing else, it's worth doing that The fact that it's fun is even better.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mentioned in our initial conversation that D&D just has, or not role playing games in general, have so much to offer beyond the fact that they're just fun things to do with your friends. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, the more I talk to you, the more I'm going like I want to find a way to get D&D into this community here. So,
Well,
uh,
I'll tell you, there's a healthy D&D community, RPG community in your area as well. Like most areas do, it's just people don't necessarily know how to track it down.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
excellent. Well, I want people to be able to stay in touch with you and learn more about you, and you can talk to them. We've got some ways for people to do that. You've got a Bitly link with DMG-J Africa.
yep.
Um,
That's a link to the work that I've published on the Dungeon Masters Guild, which is where I publish all my D&D adventures.
okay. And then you've got your Facebook. You are at J, just the letter J, Africa.
Hmm.
And then we also have you at Twitter at JAY Africa. And you've moved around quite a lot. You transplant Asian.
Yeah, yep,
So lots of ways for people to get in touch with you. What's the
yeah.
best one you said if people go like, I'm watching this, I want to get in touch with Jay?
I'm on Facebook Messenger the most, so if you want to send me a message there, that probably would be the most received. But I am also on Twitter and Instagram pretty frequently. I get all my notifications, so you know, if any of you folks out there have any questions or are interested in learning more about these programs or learning more about what D&D is or running D&D for your friends and your family, please get in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on. And dude, we're going to talk about this and maybe play a game sometime on live on this.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love that.
We'll talk about that and figure out how to make it happen. So
Yeah, totally.
thanks everybody, and we will see you again in the future.